Welcome, fellow wine lovers. This is the Wineghosts podcast. I'm Mate Bosch, a certified sommelier and seeker of hidden stories behind the most mysterious drink in history. For more information or direct contact, please look for the Wineghosts on Instagram and Facebook. But now, please grab a glass, get comfortable, and listen to how the day's ghosts get out of the bottle. This interview was recorded on the 30th of May, after we spent a magical afternoon with Sebastian Schiller in the outskirts of Stuttgart. Sebastian is the leader of Germany's first crowdfunded winery, which builds on his inherited vineyards in the Stuttgart-Rohracker area. Sebastian also left us plant some PIWI varieties in his little experimental wine museum, before we drank some Portonic together between his wines. He also showed us their little Hütte or cottage, where we ended up tasting more of his wines together during the actual recording. So in this episode you can learn about working with PIWI varieties and why they might be easier to integrate into organic or biodynamic viticulture. Sebastian also explains why his way of working the vineyards create more transparency and requires a lot more handwork. Since he's also a passionate port winemaker, he explains why his style of fortified wines is fresher and more wineish than those from Portugal. This recording begins without any official starting, but I hope that this little introduction will fill in that gap for you. And I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did our afternoon with Sebastian. Cheers!
We actually make it from the barley white.
Okay.
We have the blue grapes
Uh-huh.
that we gently press
Mm-hmm.
and with the whole bunch pressing.
Okay.
And when the juice turns into rosé,
Uh-huh.
we separate.
From the...
There's a white wine tank, and the last pressing becomes the rosé. So that's how we.
So that's the barley white, but the second half
The
of it.
second press, so
second
to
press,
say.
okay.
Yeah. But it's also we have some Dornfelder in it,
Uh-huh.
so which is completely going into the rosé,
Okay.
and that's how we work it in the winery.
Nice. Okay, cheers. Thank you very much.
Chin chin.
Thank you. Yeah. That's a little bit of CO2, no? In it.
Yeah, it's a secco, so there's
Okay.
CO2 added,
Yeah, I did. Okay.
but it's a very soft. It's a special system. I don't know that much about it. Which is the guy who does it has a special machine for it, and it's very gentle. We also make here a lot of tannins, because from the second pressing you get more extraction, also from phenolics, and so it doesn't come very sweet.
Yeah.
So people, now the bottle is empty, but the bottle is it's colorful, and people expect it to be more sweet, but it's not. It's mostly the women order,
Uh-huh.
and the guys, no, rosé, secco, no, I don't like this, but then they reorder.
Yeah. Exactly. And then they say, yeah, it's only for the woman.
Yeah, but it's also for the men.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Especially in a sunny day like this. Because I started the recording already, but I think I should mention that we are sitting here under or next to a little planting, and with a really cute house under the pine tree, under the sun. So it's just a magical setting. So check out the video which we recorded. And so welcome to the show, Sebastian, after 2 hours of working and talking together. But maybe if you could just introduce where we are and yourself and this little project where it started.
So where we are at the moment is it's called Durbachtal. So it's a little side valley of Rohracker, created by the creek Durbach, which means small creek. And this little house behind us, it's our event location. It's called Durbach Hütte, where we make tastings and events, our little Hüttenbesen. And for us, it's like our yeah, we don't have a fancy vinotheque or stuff like that.
Yeah.
You either find us in the vineyards or here. So it's where, yeah, we're more in nature than in.
True, and it's like because just behind us, like 20 people sitting under the vines and drinking wines by the bottle, because you sell here by the bottle. But do you also, like, maybe if you could just go back to 2013, right? When the first vintage actually,
Yeah, when we found it.
and
Yeah.
when you found it. So how the idea came about? And
We, to be honest, the founding year 2013 is the official founding. We've been making experimental wines since 2004.
Okay.
We did wild fermentation, yeast contact, and yeah, like in this little small glass balloons we started. It's 25 liters, and we were drinking the wines ourselves or just with friends and sold it a little bit around us. And the reputation was good, and this gave us the idea to maybe make it official. And 13 was actually it was our slow founding, so to say. The first official vintage was 14, but we made a red port in 13 and the Lemberger Cabernet, which is our flagship red. So there were 2 barrels existing in 13. Official founding was 14, but they need 2 years, so we wanted to be ahead.
And you have your own vineyards, right? But all the cellar work or winemaking is kind of sourced out to other facilities?
The winemaking we sourced out because we couldn't raise that much money. The vineyards are in the family history since many generations. So the base was always there, but my father sold the grapes to a cooperative, my grandfather as well. Yeah, and we have another vision of the future of this valley.
And can you tell us a little bit about the vineyards where we were? Just planted some PIWI grapes, PIWI vines. So maybe the soil and like what kind of wines do you feel comfortable there?
Yeah, I think what's special about this whole area is that it never got bulldozered.
Okay.
The soil got never moved to make it workable with machines. So every soil is like 100 years or 200 years or 800 years ago. So we have a winemaking history here since 800 years. Yeah, every rock is still there. So there was no movement. But we still have to work like 100 years ago. So we don't have any machines. We do everything by hand. And that's in these days it's a big disadvantage because we cannot be as cost effective. And but as you can see by where we are just now, it's also our biggest point, because every vineyard has a soul. You can feel the energy of the centuries. And sometimes when I'm in more efficient vineyards, I don't feel this. So it's all very the same. There might be awesome soil, but I don't feel the energy.
And the tradition, right? Because we were turning when we came from the vineyards, it's like 5 kilometers away, right? Kind of.
No, maybe 1. It's just a lot of
a
lot of curvy roads.
Because you just pointed to places.
Yeah, that's where our vineyards are.
Okay, and then just so many exposures and so steep. Actually, it's like I was in Rheingau or I don't know, almost in Mosel. It's like so steep, terraced vineyards, and just a lot of possibilities to create something different from plot to plot, right?
Yes, we did a lot of replantation because Yeah, some varieties were not in the perfect spot in our eyes. So we corrected this.
Okay.
We just have the Riesling on the very top anymore, where it's mineralic and we get the elegance that we're looking for. Yeah, and as I told you already, that our philosophy is traditional grapes in a vineyard where we can go with a little machine. And if there's terraces, we work with the new generation of grapes, where we have less effort.
And can you tell us a little bit about this PV varieties, because it's not so common that in a quality wine, so to say, you drink PV wines.
Yeah, I think they don't have a reputation yet because people just don't know it. So it takes very long to get used to varieties, Riesling, Pinot Noir. So people know this since many times. And the new varieties are even hard to remember. And often it's small vineyards, and you cannot make 200 bottles by variety. That's why I think PVs often go into a blend at the beginning. And if you have more vineyards of, for example, Cabernet Blanc, you find Cabernet Blanc in the market. So there's some wines which are 100%. I think Muscaris, which is in our white blend, you can find. Sauvignac, I think has a big future because it's super resistant against all the fungus around. And yeah, we can only say for our little world here, this combination of traditional and new grapes works for us. It may not work somewhere else. So everybody has to find his own path. I think that's ours.
And so do you think that with PV varieties, for example, it's easier to work organically and biodynamically, or it's...
Definitely, because you have to spray 80% less, and you're not stressed to spray every week, and you can easily go for biological spraying, and it saves you a lot of time, saves you a lot of money, and we better invest our time in doing the special treatments to make better wine instead of spraying.
Yeah, true. So what other plans do you have for the vineyard? Because you already mentioned that you don't plan too much, but I'm sure you have some plans in your head, because you also you make some rosé secco, and you make some you blend some traditional wines with Vinis vinifera with PVs, and we've also planted some Cabernet Sauvignon. So
yeah, true. We have a Sauvignon Blanc, which is 100% Sauvignon Blanc. We cannot taste. It's sold out at the moment. Sauvignon Blanc goes very well here because we are very high in altitude. We're one of the highest in this region.
How high? Do you know?
I have to check. The highest point is the lookout tower, and we're just underneath. I think it's 400 something. So it's higher than Remstal at the most parts, and which means we get very cold nights. And Sauvignon Blanc needs sun during the day and very cold nights to get aroma in the grape, and this happens here. We have Riesling, what we're going to taste next. Riesling is our Liebling. It's our favorite since we make wine, officially or unofficially. Riesling has always been in our cellar, and it started in this small batch.
And maybe about the winery, because maybe some people don't get what does it mean working in a crowdfunded winery and working with So how should we imagine to work in a vineyard like this if you have like harvest time or just do the canopy management? So how do you recruit people and how do you manage like every part of the winemaking or wine, taking care of the vines?
We realized that people are really interested in the history of the wine and what's the story behind and what's the special treatments. And yeah, we don't want to hide anything. We bring people in the vineyard and say, if we do not want to spray glyphosate, we have to use this tool and to dig out everything by hand. Takes 20 the time than spraying, but that's what we do now. And then people get the message that even making a 10 euro wine is a shitload of effort if you do it in a sustainable way. And yeah, I think this message you can more easily tell in the vineyard where it happens than in a fancy tasting room.
Yeah, true. So how do you organize these people at the moment? Because I know that the new website is coming up, right?
Yeah,
you told us.
I'm looking forward to it. At the moment, it's not very organized. People really have to send us an email, and they really have to want to help. And then we invite, and then we just meet at a meeting point, and then I decide also sometimes spontaneously by the weather. If it's too hot and the soil is just like it's too dry, then we don't dig in the soil. We do some canopy. So it's
okay.
You can plan, but don't plan too much.
And how can we maybe imagine like a harvest day?
Harvest day is very planned, so there's not much happening by chance. We normally start like 8:30, maybe 9. Otherwise, it's too wet. The grapes are too wet from the night, and then we do not harvest vineyard by vineyard. We harvest parts of the vineyard which go into the certain wine of the day.
Okay.
So, which means if we have a barley white harvesting day, could mean we are in 4 different vineyards. There's even 2 parallel teams, so maybe it's 7 vineyards, 20, 30 terraces. So for the people, sometimes it's really distracting. So they go to a vineyard, then okay, it's these 8 terraces. If we're finished, it's 200 meters next vineyard, 7 terraces. Then we go in the car somewhere else where we have lunch. And after a crazy day like this, they've seen a lot, but they don't know where they have been.
And then you bring the grapes to...
Yeah, we collect the grapes. First of all, we explain everything we do. So you don't have to know anything about winemaking. So there's a very intense instruction, so people don't make any mistakes.
Okay.
So we don't work or harvest. It's better exact than quick. So that's our philosophy.
Okay. And then you bring all this to
Yeah, we bring all the grapes
or...
then to a winery where I work. And there we crush the grapes, we press, we ferment. So this all happens in a bigger cellar where we just sort of rent our little space. Because, yeah, building an own cellar is a lot of money that we cannot afford.
And do you have some plans like this in your head for the future? Or?
Honestly,
no.
No. I think wine is happening in the vineyard, and in a cellar you can just preserve the quality. Yeah, we are vineyard winemakers,
Okay.
not cellar winemakers.
Yeah, cheers to that. So we are drinking a Riesling Liebling 2018. 2018.
Yeah, not only. The interesting part, it's a
Okay.
blend of two vintages. This actually happened with the last bottling, where 2015 didn't finish the wild fermentation, so it stopped.
Okay.
And
But why? Because of the high alcohol, or?
no, the yeast was just lazy
Okay.
and fell asleep in winter, didn't wake up. And then you can squill it, you can give it some air,
Okay.
but it didn't ferment the rest of the sugar. And yeah, we didn't want to put
Commercial yeast.
like a commercial yeast to just get it dry. Then my idea was, let's just harvest 16 and ferment 15 with the fresh yeast.
Okay.
And yeah, it was sort of riskful, but it worked. And in the end, we had a wine which was 2 years on the yeast, the 15 vintage, and the other one like almost a year.
Okay.
And the interesting thing was 15 was a very hot year, 16 more fresh.
Yeah.
Combination was really good. And what we have now is almost the same. 17 was the fresh year with the frost, so we have pretty nice acidity here. And 18 again very hot. And yeah, so first bottling of the Riesling happened to be 2 vintages, but we sort of like this combination of 2 years.
So it's gonna be a tradition.
Yes.
Okay. I just changed it, and I can encourage you to follow on this path. But really, the nose is really delicately peachy, and actually this almost peachy apricot flowery nose. It's a really delicate nose, almost like a kind of feminine, not this like this typical like energetic bladey Riesling, but a more like aromatic, I would say. Really flowery nose for me. But it has a typical Württemberg Riesling quality, I think, because it's really fruity, but I preserved the acidity. So it's really well balanced. And it has a, how much time did you spend on the lease?
The 17, yeah, 2 years. 18,
Like on fine lease, or?
very long on the main yeast, and then we take it off, but we take a lot of fine yeast.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's very long on the vines. We don't like the early harvesting trend, which I think is a trend at the moment. We keep the Riesling as long as possible. If the leaves turn yellow,
Yeah.
and the grapes golden, then it's time to get the Riesling.
And this is reductive, or you put it in other barrels?
We work very oxidative.
Okay.
So we stamp the grapes by feet.
Okay.
We put the mash in a cooling room, so it gets some cold extraction. And after 4 or 5 days, we press the juice, and then it's natural fermentation. We just wait until it's finished.
But in a stainless steel.
Yeah. Riesling is all stainless steel.
Yes.
It gets this creamy character from the long yeast contact, I guess.
Yeah. Like it has some body to it, some weight in the mid palate, really.
Yeah, it's got some phenolic structure, which comes from the extraction of the grapes.
And you don't destem, right? The whole
No.
branches?
Yeah, we don't destem, we stamp.
But it's not only linear, so it's really full, like it's mouthful wine, but not heavy, so it's still refreshing. Really nice texture.
Thanks.
And what other wines do you have, like in the portfolio?
We have the Sauvignon Blanc, which is also from the the premium range, which is like single variety wines. We have a red blend,
Okay.
which is Pinot Noir, Lemberger, and Cabertin.
Okay.
Another PIWI.
Okay.
And I'll just show you the portfolio.
So that was the Riesling Liebling.
Yeah. You know what Liebling means?
It's like a...
You should look at her now.
My favorite, actually.
Your Liebling.
Yeah. Oh, and we tasted the Portfolio White, the port wine, at the vineyard. Can you tell us a little bit about this port project and maybe your personal attachment to it?
The Portfolio White is a project we make with a friend in Würzburg, and so it's it's a white port made the old-fashioned way. So mash fermentation, also stamped by feet, cold maceration. Not talking too much about the details. Even the grape varieties are top secret.
Okay.
And but to stop the fermentation, we always use a really good alcohol. It's a brandy which has been in oak barrel for 10 years, even more. And then it stays in small 220 barrels for 8 till 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah. And as I told you, when we had it, we make with the white port sort of a Solera system. So we only bottle as much as we produce, and we sort of mix the vintages over the year.
So the quality is the same high.
Yeah.
Level every time. Nice. And do you have any plans in which direction would you broaden the, or what other wines can we see in the future, maybe under this label?
We are planning a Weißburgunder,
Okay.
where we've just this road where I pointed upstairs.
Yeah.
It's a very high vineyard. It's still Trollinger, but we are not the biggest fan of Trollinger.
Yeah.
So this we will cut off the Trollinger and plant a Weißburgunder, because I think also the high altitude will bring us less sugary grapes. So we will have a fresh, like a fresh fruity Weißburgunder. Will be in barrel. So
Nice. Okay.
I think it's gonna be good here. Yeah.
Okay. And how do you work in a vineyard, or how can you in a cellar? Sorry. So what's your approach maybe to winemaking? If you could, not only talking about oxidation, but maybe I don't know, sulfur or this kind of things.
We, as I told you, it's all about wild fermentation. We don't add any yeast. Before bottling, we add sulfur, but only very little. And then we test it at the lab, and then we resulfur very little. So we sulfur less, and then we just add more. It's the better way, instead of just giving the max to like flat to everything. Now we want to interact as less as possible in the cellar. Yeah, it's more about tasting and deciding, no, let's just not bottle yet.
Yeah.
So that's mostly the decision that is made.
And you don't have any commercial pressure brush? Wahrscheinlich, yeah. Probably.
No, we're not listed in any supermarkets where we use shelf space. Our distributors are small wine shops, the bakery, the vegetables store in our village. So it's a nature product. When sometimes it's not available, that's normal. cherries are not available all the time.
Yeah, true. Should be. And like you have 1.5 hectares, right? What you said now.
Yeah, we have 1.5 under production, and there's some vineyards that have been replanted, which are not under production yet, but under work.
And how many bottles can you make or produce per year?
That's also getting more every year, just because there's more grapes every year, just because this terrace has its first vintage, another terrace has second vintage, and normal. At the moment we are around 12,000 bottles.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. And where can people find these wines if not sitting here under the sun?
You
like internationally, maybe.
Internationally, we don't have any importer yet. There's one in Switzerland, which wants to work with us, but yeah, lockdown, so it's not happening yet. Just send an email. We don't have a web shop yet. We
just come here to Stuttgart maybe, and
that's the best way.
Take a plane.
Exactly. I don't know where the people watch your channel. No, it's a small project which lives from that it's authentic. So we don't want to make pallets and containers, which can obviously not be produced here. So the whole project has been created to preserve this magic place. So I'm happy if this at least stays as it is.
Yeah.
And yeah, all the people here get the message.
I think so too. And probably they want to work in the vineyards, probably.
I think they're just happy with supporting by drinking.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay, so please talk about this red port that you have.
Yeah, that's the Portfolio Red. It's actually the port wine we make here in Rohracker. And yeah, the idea of this was actually created in Portugal. So I was with Dennis in our first year of learning winemaking. We just took a plane, fly to the Douro, and get to see other things, other impressions, and we got addicted with port wine. And yeah, after the first bottle, during the second bottle, we decided, okay, let's do this back home one day. One day. And yeah, now we just did it in 2013, founding year, from Lemberger and Cabernet Carbon, which is another PIWI. And yeah, we go very low with the yield. In the Cabernet, it's like 20-25 kilo, and in the Lemberger, 30-35. So it's very less grapes.
Per?
We say per R. If it's per hectare, it's 2,000 per hectare.
Okay.
Yeah, which is,
I don't know. We should.
It's very little. Okay. Just Google. I don't know.
R.
No, if you Google Chateau Lafite, I think they produce. They have more grapes per bottle.
Okay.
No, but in the port wine, it's actually not tradition, but it's the style that you need the concentration. Yeah. You shouldn't make a port wine out of a high yield vineyard, because then it just becomes alcoholic and watery. So that's you need concentration.
Yeah, true.
At least in an area here where we are a few thousand kilometers more north than Portugal. Our disadvantage is less sun hours. Our advantage is more acidity. No regulation in alcohol level. So we do have less alcohol than Portugal. we do have less residual sugar, and our style, our port wine style, I would say it's less sweet. It's more tannic driven. It's more wineish. So it goes more into wine than into
liqueur wine.
liqueur wine.
So it's more fresh.
Yeah, I would say yes.
Okay.
So
I'm excited to try it with the chocolate mousse.
yeah, you have to.
Okay, nice. Yeah, okay, Sebastian, then thank you very much for the recording. We have to go, or you have to go. Thank you very much. And
yeah, pleasure having you here. I'm excited about the video and
about the podcast. Yeah, sure.
podcast. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, and great effort, really great project.
Yeah.